Hello and welcome back to Chakras and Cusswords. You cosmic baddies, I'm so glad you're here. If you are new here, welcome. My name is Catherine. I am the podcast host, and we're going to get into this episode real quick. But I just want to tell you, this is probably like your new favorite place to get a mix of spiritual downloads, some real talk, a little bit of conspiracies, controversies, and energy. And this month, we're going to talk about the energy of the major shifts in love, communication, and personal power that we're going to feel through the cosmic connection that a lot of people like to see as astrology. And it is astrology, right? So before we get into the energy of May of 2025, let's do a quick little reflection, like I always do, on April. And I'm just going to say, April, my goodness. Honey, you were like kind of like a lot. You were a lot, baby girl. You were a lot. I don't know. It was April. I feel like April's a feminine month. It's so hard to tell, but the name April makes me think it's very feminine. Yeah, so there was definitely a lot of connection with Venus with the month of April, also with the energy of solar eclipses as we kind of shift over. Right around March 29th is when I stopped recording, stopped taking notes, and we did see the solar eclipse new moon. And for those who are interested, I am recording Thursday, April 24th at 5:56 a.m. I probably started right around 5:55 just to make this just a little bit more cosmic. And April's energy felt a little exhausting. I think it's because of Aries season. But the Neptune enters Aries, really, we saw a shift with some interesting personas. One of the storylines that I saw was over a period of 6 weeks, 4 current former deputies from the same Texas sheriff's office reportedly unalived themselves, according to officials. These incidents involved members from the Harris County Sheriff's Office, and it took place between February 6th through March 19th. So what we do know is Deputy Christina Kohler, who was reported missing for over a week, was found unalived on March 13th with her death reported an apparent self-unaliving. And then on March 16th, former Deputy Maria Vasquez, her body was found, and the Houston medical examiner basically determined that it must have been a self-unaliving. And then also William Bozeman, who had served for Harris County for 24 years, also reported self-unaliving. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this, and right around the time that Neptune enters Aries, is because Neptune is that energy of like illusions and that area of disassociation. And also like that area of like very much like of this conscious space. And Aries is very self-absorbent. It's very like centered around identity and who individuals are. And I think, and as somebody who has seen a lot of traumatic events in my life, I've even been involved in a lot of traumatic events in my life as a juvenile. That just sounds like so crazy. As a juvenile, as a youngin', I was involved in some crazy shit. And then as an adult, I continued to move towards trauma by becoming an emergency room nurse. It was just kind of like I seeked that trauma. I chased that trauma. I don't know if it was like excessive trauma bonds that I created for myself in the energy of life and manipulating certain situations to continue to bring myself more comfortable with trauma because sometimes people like feed off trauma. And I'm not saying that this is what these individuals have done. But what I am saying, and I'm not saying that this is what this energy brings, but what I am saying is that a lot of people don't realize the trauma and the PTSD with coming in front of being a police officer or somebody who is servicing the community, and especially police officers. I feel like police officers have the highest risk of unaliving themselves for multiple reasons. They're usually, besides the medics, are like the first on the scene. And they usually have a very, very hard time talking about what has occurred. Also, what we have noticed with police is that police are now suffering from short staffing. A lot of people don't want to be a police because they feel like, people don't like the cops, right? It's a very, very fine line. And that is one of those are like one of those careers where you're basically giving up everything for your career. And I really wish there was more ways that they would help the first line responders, because as somebody who devoted 10 years plus to being an emergency room nurse, I can definitely see how these challenges continue to occur. And it's just very sad to know that not a whole department, but a majority of like 4 individuals unalived themselves in 4 weeks. So it makes me think that something happened in that department. There was never a grieving process. There was never a time that they reflected on it. There was never counseling. There was never anything that really allowed these individuals to heal from certain situations that they saw. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about it. Another topic that's definitely been coming up, there's been like a lot of sinkholes. I don't know. The world is, Earth is just fucking, getting these little sinkholes all over the place. And it's very interesting that they just kind of like come up. And it's interesting that I've seen these topics kind of right around the time that are transitioning into Taurus season. Another topic that was very viral around this time, around the beginning of April time, was there was a New York high school girl who her basketball coach was fired after it shows him yanking the player's ponytail following a 6-point loss in a basketball game. And I'm like, yeah. One of the girls who was on the team even said something, and we see like that Neptune and Aries energy again feeling very disruptive. And then also during this time, we had the energy of the new month transitioning over. And there was a lot of talk about just energies of like, I guess you could say subtle violence, but then also violence that wasn't so subtle. And it just made me think like, what is going on where somebody could feel confident enough to grab a girl by her ponytail? Like, was he losing his shit? Was he a little bit too old? Was he getting a delusional? Like, was he getting very, very delusional? And it just makes me wonder, like, are parents seeing how some of these coaches or some of these people who are seen as responsible leaders taking care of their children, like, was this the first time that it happened? Because I feel like anybody who could grab a kid by their ponytail, like as a game is going, where everybody's around, must have been very, very rude, or also very, very abusive behind closed doors. And I think that's something that needs to be like talked about. And we see that energy around with the Mars in Cancer, sextiles Uranus and Taurus, around working towards some energies of being a little bit motivated to be a little bit more humble, to also work towards creating an energy that feels more tied into the collective, having an area that feels safe. And we also saw that right around Mars in Cancer's trines Saturn and Pisces, which to me, Mars in Cancer, that's a detriment, right? In trining with Saturn and Pisces is all about like the area of spirituality, responsibilities, and also the collective. Seeing how certain people unconsciously, he probably might have been like, I was upset it was an accident. I don't know. I don't know. But all I know is that was me, honey, and I saw some grown ass man pull my daughter's ponytail. He wouldn't have to worry about the other players, okay? He would have to worry about me rushing his ass, okay? Rushing his ass. And probably getting arrested. Because when it comes to my kids, there's a good chance I might choose violence. And I know we're not supposed to say that. But the mama bear does come out full blown. And yeah, so wow. Hats off to the parents who were able to contain themselves in the stands. Maybe they didn't see it. Also, protesters are really rallying still in the very beginning of the month as against Donald Trump. So 1,400 protests against President Donald Trump and Elon Musk are expected across all 50 states on Saturday, organized by the pro-democratic or democracy movement in response to what they consider a hostile takeover. Like, people want Elon Musk to stop it, just stop it. And the hands-off mass action protests will take place in state capitals, federal buildings, congressional office, and social security headquarters, and more. And we saw this energy right around the sun in Aries, sextiles Jupiter and Gemini, which is very interesting considering that Trump is a Gemini, and also how this energy felt very like, we're sick of you, dude. We're fucking sick of you. And people decide time to take a takedown on him. And yeah, so do you. Everybody needs to stand up for what they believe in and what is right. And so they did a big old protest. So then also we have the extinct dire wolf returns. It's not like we just found him, recreated him. So the Colossal Bioscience says that they brought back the dire wolf species. And this was the wolf that was used in, what's that show? Game of Thrones that everybody loves. And after 13,000 years of being extinct, we have brought it back. He was created in some lab in Dallas. And I don't know how people feel about this. I mean, are we going to be able to adopt these? Are we going to all have dire wolves at our home? Are we going to somehow create these into little huskies? Are we going to let them run wild? It's interesting because some people are like, okay, you were able to create this animal that went extinct, and it's very sad that this animal went extinct, but what about cancer? What about diabetes? What about all these other common diseases that we can't cure? And I will say, with some of these diseases, humans also need to take accountability with their lifestyle as well. Cancer, unfortunately, especially like childhood cancer, and some abnormalities in genetics and some abnormalities with certain birth defects. Nobody can really fix that. That's something that some people are born with unless they have genetic testing when they are pregnant. But yeah, there's definitely some abnormalities that, as humans, we could definitely fix, like congestive heart failure. We could definitely loosen the load on the way we eat. And we could definitely be mindful, and especially if we have risk factors. But a lot of people are like, this feels like a waste of scientific money and research. And I will be honest, it is kind of like it's cool, but then it's kind of like, well, okay, I guess, and those little wolves sure are cute. And that occurred right around April 12th, the full moon in Libra, and also Venus direct in Pisces, Juno retrograde enters Scorpio. So there was definitely this area of like this dreamy aspect, especially with the full moon, like in Libra, the energy of like balancing and relationships. And then that protest did occur in all 50 states. It was organized, and people were not having it. And a lot of people were here speaking out that they were sick of Trump, sick of Elon Musk, and just people were fed up. Then right around April 15th, we had Mercury enters Aries, and we had the six celebrities who said they went to space. Okay, so history was made reportedly by Blue Origin all-female space flight took off and successfully completed its mission, where Katy Perry, Gayle King, Lauren Sanchez led charge for the women to, create some type of girl power magic. And they, said they went to space. Blue Origin's launch went down at the launch site somewhere in Texas, honey. And then they came, and of course they video recorded it, except for inside the rocket. They video recorded it, and they were like floating, and Katy Perry had this little daisy. Now, I don't know if they did. I don't know if they didn't, but there's a lot of speculation that this was kind of staged. Also, people are saying, like, even if this wasn't staged, and they did go to space or just the Earth's orbit, they didn't like go to the moon. I don't know if anybody went to the moon, but they definitely didn't go to the moon. They didn't go deep into space, honey. They just, kind of like went as high as you could. And then they came crashing down on this little thing. And then Jeff Bezos went to run to meet his lady, and he tripped. But then a lot of people said that looked like she or somebody opened it from the inside, which, you could go research that. I don't got the effort. I don't got the time. But a lot of people are like saying, what a fucking waste of money. Like for girl power, like it just feels like a distraction. It just feels like we have real problems around here. And you guys are like sending these crazy chicks to space. And Gayle King then, of course, was very upset that people don't believe that they went to space. And she's like, have you been to space? No, girl, we haven't, as Cat Williams would say. And no, we haven't. And we got bills to pay. It just feels like, just the rich throwing how rich they are. And, it's kind of like, I want to go to space, daddy. And then Jeff Bezos like, anything for you, Lauren. Anything for you. Yeah. Ew. Then also, it's been talked that Xi Jinping, I hope I said his name right, and if I didn't, the president of China, Xi Jinping, and Donald Trump are both Geminis. So a lot of people believe that these tariffs, this energy match is going to continue to the end of time. This tariff thing, it's a hot ass mess. We'll see how it works out. Donald says it's going to be okay. Just have a little faith in him. And he's going to bring jobs back to, United States. I'm assuming warehouse jobs. I'm assuming he's talking about the motor industries. I don't know. I don't know half the fucking bullshit these politicians talk about. Except I do know that the working standards in China are not as good as the working standards as the U.S. So that must mean we're going to have to pay the people who are working here a lot more money. And I don't know how certain corporations feel about that, but he's saying it's going to bring jobs back to the US, and we will see. We will see, right? And basically, China's like, bruh, 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 we don't need you. Y'all need us. And then China went on like this like viral thing where they were flexing how much stuff they make, and they're like, yeah, your Louis Vuittons, we make those. Yeah, all your nice goods, your Nikes, blah blah blah, we make that. And guess what? None of that's made in France. None of that's made in other countries. It's made here, baby. And we just slap on all this good stitching and all this good making, and then we send it to the country and they get the brand logos, and guess what, you guys buy it for like $3,000 or some obscene ridiculous price. And I will say, yes, I have bought luxury goods over my time, and in all honesty, you buy the experience. I feel like could it be made in China? Most likely. And then they just slap on some logos, possibly, in France or Italy or wherever. But I don't understand like when people buy luxury goods online, because in all honesty, to me, it feels like you're buying the energy exchange of the moment, walking into the store, having everybody greet you. Oh, hi. Oh, hi. I know you're about to spend a shitload of money. Hi, let me get you some champagne. Let's look at all the bags. You're really buying that experience to me. And most of the time, the stores are very nice. They're very, they're luxury. They're very like high quality. You take your time, you look at all the bags. It's not like something that you just like order online. I mean, I'm sure I have gotten a gift that people have ordered online because they knew like I liked it, and they didn't want to walk into the store. They knew what I wanted, so they just got me the luxury good online. But in all honesty, you're buying that energy exchange of being successful, of being in a place where you could spend 3,000, 5,000, whatever, 1,000, 1,000 on a bag. Is it obscene? Is it ridiculous? Yeah. But that's really what you're buying. You're not buying the actual bag. I mean, you are buying the actual bag, but most of the time people are buying that energy exchange of walking into the place, the boutique, the designer good brand, and walking out with that big box, that big bag, and the energy exchange of being in that store. And I definitely feel like the bags that I have are going to be bags that are going to be passed down to my daughter as like gifts, until one day she goes and buys her own. Like, I would not buy it. I mean, maybe, I don't know. It depends. It's just like, yeah. I mean, a lot of the shit we have is just so stupid, but whatever, we have it. Then also around this time let's see, so we're right around that Mercury enters Aries, and then also Mars enters Leo. So right around Mars enters Leo, we have talks that scientists claims ancient civilizations on Mars was wiped out by a nuclear attack from alien rage. And I really want to do a podcast on aliens. I just have to sit my ass down and devote some time to research it. Because there's definitely been some talk about aliens for a very long time. And I feel like there could be some truths, some hidden truths. So John Branberg, basically a formerly associated with Princeton, so he's a smart guy. He proposed a controversial theory that ancient Martian civilization was annihilated by a nuclear attack. and their alien race might have been wiped out, or they might have came to Earth. He bases this claims on presence that xenon 129 isotopes in Mars' atmosphere, which he argues this resembles thermonuclear explosions possibly were produced on Earth, or how they are very similar to the ones that were produced on Earth. So Brandbergen, Mr. John, believes that the energy, the planet of Mars, was actually some type of big event occurred. However, mainstream scientists and NASA are like, honey, you are smoking that conspiracy pipe a little bit too strong. And he's like, nope, I believe it. There's definitely been some talk about Mars a few times. I've heard from a few, I guess you could say, theorists, conspiracy theorists, scientisty people that definitely believe that something has happened on that red planet. And what's very interesting is when we look at Mars and the energy of astrology, and then we have Mars enters Leo right around this time, it makes me think like, who is the true leader? Who really is the true creator? Could it be some aliens? And also, Mars in astrology represents the planet of war. Myths go that ancients used to pray to the planet or the star, as they would see it, as an energy to bring them safe home from battles, also to sharpen their spears and so on. But what if Mars was the planet of war? Because there was really a fucking war that occurred. Now, a lot of people believe that aliens, extraterrestrial activity, now, are they in the space or in the ocean, or maybe they're in a little bit of both? Somehow are portally, switching through dimensions. And during some time in ancient times, they came down and they taught us about beauty, taught us about makeup, because we were just some rusty ass cavemen. Let's face it, we weren't very cute. And they were like, y'all need to get your shit together, okay? You little earthlings, we created you to save you guys, to save part of our species, and y'all still a hot mess. And, they taught us about astrology. They taught us about talking to spirits or demons or entities, and they taught us a lot of things. This is just what some people believe. I'm not saying I believe it. I haven't researched it enough, but I'm definitely saying in the art of storytelling, could Mars be labeled the planet of war because maybe something actually occurred? Very interesting, and very interesting that this was the hot topic when Mars enters Leo. Also, a thing that was very, very shocking was right around Easter time, April 20th, right? We had two events that occurred. We had Beyonce's birth certificate reveals a shocking revelation. It is believed that she dropped her birth certificate in her new book. She did a book for, I believe, her Cowboy Carter. I'm not sure the name of the book. I haven't researched it. But a lot of people know that Beyonce was a Virgo. It was always acknowledged that Beyonce was a Virgo. And I believe everybody knew her moon sign, but nobody knew her rising sign. So a lot of people believe that she was a Libra. And I even heard people believe, I can't remember, they thought she was a Libra, and there was another one. Was it Aries? I'm not sure, but a lot of people speculated that they thought that she was a Libra rising. So it has been confirmed, supposedly, by this book that Beyonce is a rising Aries, which is interesting from her birth certificate. It confirms that her ascendant is an Aries, which I could see, she's very passionate. I don't really see her as an Aries, but maybe, this fiery rising sign complements her Virgo sun. Definitely. It gives her like some passion, some areas of spontaneousness. But she definitely is a little bit more quieter than some of the Aries that I know. She tends to kind of stay a little bit hidden and secretive, and a lot of people believe that has to do with her Scorpio moon. Now we would know, I guess the Scorpio moon would be in the 8th house, right? Making her a sun in Virgo in the 6th house. So this is interesting in some aspects because a lot of the ascendant with Aries, it will kind of like line up quite nice with the energy of the houses and the energy of whatever, the sign is. So for instance, her sun in Virgo, of course, is in the 6th house, right? So we're going to see that energy kind of unfold as the Aries is in the 1st house. So to me, I feel like it definitely could be an interesting match to have a big 3 as a sun in Virgo, moon in Scorpio, and a rising in Aries. So definitely an interesting topic. I don't know why we're so fixated on people's birth charts. So I want to talk a little bit about Kanye West and Shannon Sharpe. So I will definitely say that this energy in the last few days or weeks of April has been kind of feeling very intense. We have a lot of talk about global changes. Also, we had the Pope pass away on, I believe, the day after Easter, and now they are looking for a new Pope. For many people, I was born into a Catholic family of non-practicing Catholics. My dad, he doesn't necessarily is a big member of the church. He doesn't go to church. He never really liked going to church. My mom, same thing. Both of them were forced as children to go to church. And it was just kind of like not our thing, but I was baptized and I did baptize my kids Catholic. So I do feel somewhat of a connection with the Catholic Church. I often say Catholics are the most witchiest. They are the most witchiest and odd organized religions out there. There's definitely some things that I agree with the Catholic Church, and there's definitely some things I do not agree with the Catholic Church and just organized religions as a whole. I still don't know where I stand on, certain energies of religion. And I think, in all honesty, it's because I am just born a spiritualist. I can see the beauty in all of the religions and all of the areas of mythology and, organization, but just definitely the viewing of the Pope and how they worship the Pope. It was just, how people paid homage. It was a very beautiful ceremony. They're continuing to have ceremonies in the Vatican. I definitely did shed some tears because he seemed very humble. And it's always sad when somebody passes over in some ways because you think of all the lessons that they taught you, and that's how I see the Pope. But definitely the energy has been high. And two of the energy topics that really has been high is Shannon Sharpe and also Kanye West. So first, let's talk about Kanye. So right around this time, we have the Sun in Taurus squares Pluto in Aquarius, and Kanye does have a Taurus stellium. I have not pulled up Shannon Sharpe's chart. I don't necessarily plan to. Also, we see also during this time, we have the Venus conjunct Saturn, which is actually occurring today. And then we have the new moon in Taurus occurring April 27th. So Kanye has been wilding out. He has definitely been having some mental shifts and breakdowns for quite some time. He has not been able to contain his emotions or his words quite well. I definitely think that Kanye suffers from a lot of mental and also a lot of mental, I guess you could say, oh gosh, just breakdowns. He probably definitely has some type of personality disorder, maybe even some schizophrenia in there. I do believe that he is on some type of substance. Could it possibly be ketamine? Could it possibly be I don't know, what they say, he was getting gassed or he was doing these gases. So there's a lot going on with him. And then plus also having a mental breakdown for years. I don't, and it's very sad because he's very talented. And it does seem like somewhere deep down in that twisted brain of his, he does have a heart because he seems very concerned about his children. And it just is very sad to see somebody so talented, somebody that I've seen through media, I've watched through media, just get worse and worse throughout the years. And in all honesty, it showcased it. I think we need to have the conversation about men not talking about mental health, not being people who seek mental health therapy, not seek areas of counseling until it's too late, right? Drug use is used as a coping skill, and unfortunately, it is one of the worst coping skills you could use because it just continues to allow the psychosis. It just continues to allow a lot of these emotions to get pushed away. So Kanye has been going on and off. I had to stop following him because in all honesty, he was just saying so much, like he was dressing up as a Ku Klux Klan member with a a black hood. And he was just doing the most. And I just honestly, I couldn't really listen. But then recently he did talk about how he was having a relationship with his cousin since he was 14, and the relationship started at 9, and unfortunately stuff like this does occur. And this was a male cousin, and I'm not sure if he's acknowledging that he is bisexual or if he's acknowledging that he's gay or what. But unfortunately, a lot of men are essayed and they don't talk about it. And I'm not saying that, in some ways I'm saying Kanye exploding and, tweeting this, that he was having inappropriate relationships at a very early age with a male cousin. Definitely in some ways I could see how this was definitely the last straw where people had to intervene, and now supposedly he's in rehab. But Kanye has always shown that he has had some type of addiction to porn or addiction to sexual encounters or to a bunch of very intrusive events, right? The control of him dressing his woman up, the control of him with his ex relationships, the control of his kids. So there's definitely been a lot of control factors. And I think the reason why is because at a very early age, he was put in situations where it heightened his sexuality. And that is something that does occur. And a lot of people who are abused at an early age do fall in this tunnel, as some might say, a tunnel of continuous repetitive behaviors, because when you are abused at a certain age, and it could be from other children, because that's something that we have seen a lot, is when children abuse other children because they were being abused, that it heightens this energy where there is a change with the brain. There's also a change with the area of intimacy, the area of shame, the area of, self-esteem. It just changes a lot of the dynamics of that child. So if you are somebody who was essayed, you definitely should work with a licensed therapist. It should be something that you are putting yourself on the heels of recovery and also acknowledging that. I'm not saying you have to acknowledge it to everybody, right? But you have to acknowledge it within yourself, and especially with men, because unfortunately with men, what happens is men continue to suppress the emotions, suppress the trauma, suppress the healing, suppress it because they don't want to have the self-awareness of what has occurred. And a lot of them get addicted to porn, they get addicted to sex, they get addicted to a lot of things that aren't creating balance and substance in their life and is actually creating more detriment. So it is very, controversial. I hope that Kanye does get some help. I hope he gets off of the drugs. And then they're saying like Bianca was picking him up in something, crazy. But to see somebody just go down this whole demise of more psychosis, more mental breakdowns, it's quite sad. Also, Shannon Sharpe, for those who don't know, Shannon Sharpe is he has a podcast host. He's on ESPN. And he too is now being sued by Tony Busby, who is the man who has gone after Jay-Z and also gone after Puffy. But Puffy, P. Diddy, he's got a bigger fish to fry. He's in jail. But this lawsuit was basically with a woman who was like 30 years his junior. And yes, she is legal, but a lot of men are putting themselves in a lot of situations that unfortunately have to do with encounters where women are able to accuse them in certain situations. And it's very interesting because I've seen a lot of people talk about like some football coach who has a girlfriend who's like, he's like 70. I don't know the coach's name, and she's like in her 20s. Yeah, to me that's just gross. But a lot of these men are putting themselves in these situations where it's like, you guys have so much to lose and you're basically risking it all on these encounters because you are feeding your ego and you're feeding your sexual desires that are allowing people to basically tarnish everything that you worked so hard for. And unfortunately, the ego sometimes allows us to lose focus where the higher self and the energy of accomplishments is centered. So I definitely think that the men in society need to do a big dose of reflection and energy alignment and allowing their ego to maintain a balance where they see that the power dynamic is going to lead to their ultimate demise if they do not start to practice some more self-awareness. Society is not allowing this power structure anymore where women are being, suppressed. Some women will still be suppressed, right? But society is now judging and looking at these events where before with the Harry Weinsteins and the, Epsteins, it was kind of like a little bit more hidden, right? And now society is saying, and it's interesting because Shannon Sharpe had Cat Williams who said all big even will be exposed. And he is basically living the life of somebody who is doing things that, and I'm not trying to get super spiritual or anything, but he's definitely doing things that he should be more consciously aware. Do you think a 19-year-old is truly, truly interested with an older man unless that man has some type of money or wealth or success that he can give her. No. You know, maybe there is a connection, and I do know women who date younger and I do know men who date older and vice versa, but sometimes you have to be a little bit more aware for everything that you worked for, and also too living out these weird fantasies of like role playing where, and I don't know if it was role playing or he was actually being abusive, but the fact that she has him recording basically saying he's going to choke her out. Honey, honey. That's why you don't hook up with anybody and everybody. Their relationship, I think, lasted for 2 years, but still, sometimes you need to get you a woman who is on your level. And Monique warned him. She told him, look, you need to get yourself an older lady. Stop messing with these young girls. You need to get you a woman who's going to bake you a cake, who's going to love you and take care of you. And Shannon Sharp, too fascinated with the youngins, because he's got that power. He's got that ego to feed. And now, look where it's got him, not in a good place. So let's get into the astrology for May, because I do not want this podcast to be super, super long. So I am going to go a little bit fast because I know the reflection for April was intense. So I do feel that definitely the astrology, the general themes for May is a little bit passionate. It's transformative. It feels a little bit more collective. It feels heavy on the Venus and Mercury Pluto influences. And also there is an emphasis of communication, love, and big mental shakedowns and breakdowns we might see definitely after that energy of Gemini season hits. So May is a very passionate month in the energies of love and passion, and also in the area of communication. So hopefully there will be some new energies around desires and movements. So right around May 2nd, we have Venus in Aries conjuncts Neptune in Aries, which this brings a passionate energy of like feeling full bloom, feeling the ideas of love, and feeling the area of perfection and magnetic auras. Also around May 4th, we have Pluto retrograde in Aquarius. So this will be the start of a retrograde for Pluto. Pluto is a very slow moving planet to begin with. And with this retrograde, it'll be like, wah, wah, wah. Don't worry, Pluto's not going back to Capricorn, but this is definitely a time that you're going to feel that energy to maybe like take an energy that feels a little bit more slower if you've been feeling very centered around transformation. Also, it is a good time to reflect on everything that we've learned from Pluto being in Aquarius. Also around this time, we have on May 10th, Mercury enters Taurus. We are in Taurus season. I will have a podcast on the Taurus zodiac the following week, and I think I'm going to put out a mermaid meditation. So I also have some other podcasts that I'm working on. So definitely lots of new content. Mercury enters Taurus, areas of communication, sustainability, and being centered around practical solutions, remembering to stay grounded. Around May 12th, we have full moon in Scorpio. This is definitely a moon to get sexy with it. Sassy. I'm talking sassy, honey. Oh, yeah. You're going to put on that energy of desire. You're going to put on that energy of secrets. Some secrets might be coming to light. So if somebody's been hiding some things, we might learn about it. Also, the energy feels very much centered around shadows and embracing your power, the area of seduction, intimacy. Also, I feel like with a full moon in Scorpio, there might be some death. Maybe some energy around somebody who is in the spaces of, I guess, like world leaders. I'm just saying, because we have the Mercury in Taurus squares Pluto in Aquarius. And this could feel very be challenging for some. The Mercury in Taurus squares Pluto in Aquarius makes me feel like there's going to be some topics that are coming up in the news right around May 12th and May 10th that are going to be very interesting, and it encourages us to look at long time achievements, but it also allows us to see the difficulties in that. And when I think about leaders, I know a lot of people don't necessarily see the Scorpio as a leader for the most part, but that Taurus energy and the Mercury and Aquarius and Pluto being in Aquarius. Okay, so with Scorpios do have like this underworld leader mentality and this area that feels very like occultish. So I think some very interesting stories are going to come out around this time. Also, it's definitely a time that you're going to want to plan and also look at your desires, and you're going to put good areas of reflection back into you as Pluto is in retrograde. So you're going to allow that calmness to kind of chill, because I do feel like this May 12th energy might be a little bit intense. May 16th, Ceres enters Aries. And with this Ceres enters Aries energy, sometimes I feel like it's going to be more centered about like love and area of certain breakthroughs, and also like that energy of awakening the interpersonal space, nourishing yourself, caring for yourself, and caring for those passions that you have. Also, this is definitely a high energy moment, because we also have on May 17th, Sun in Taurus conjuncts Uranus in Taurus, and also Mercury in Taurus squares Mars in Leo. So it definitely has that energy of tension and potential conflicts. It also has that energy of breakthroughs and seeing the ability of certain successes. It definitely has that movement that feels very intertwined, and it feels very centered around sudden. I also feel like this energy feels very, I guess you could say, almost very like abrupt. And it also feels a little bit more centered around like, how are we going to make this movement further when there's lots of tension, especially with the tension with Mercury and Taurus squares Mars and Leo. Feels like a dynamic, a power struggle. I don't know, maybe more tariffs. Fuck. Can Trump put that damn pen down? I just feel like he like wakes up and he's like, how can I fuck shit up some more? You know, what's interesting is a lot of people say that the Pope met the Antichrist because he passed away after meeting J.D. Vance. The internet is the all-time ruler. The memes, the jokes, the internet does not care. The internet does not give no fucks. Gosh, internet's hilarious. Also on May 20th, we have Sun in Taurus sextile Saturn in Pisces, and Sun enters Gemini season. Gemini season is all about like curiosity, socialization, also the energy of adapting, and also the energy of being a little bit more open mind, flexible, which is very interesting because Trump as a Gemini, he he does not seem flexible at all. But, you know, a lot of people, I mean, it depends on who, you know, you talk to, because a lot of people are like, no, Trump's doing the right thing. And then some people are like, fuck that guy. So it really depends on who you talk to, how they see it. I have decided not to allow politics to manipulate my life, because in all honesty, I feel like it's a manipulation tool that whatever's going to happen is going to happen. We're just going to have to, you know, live with the consequences. Also, plant your gardens. Plant your gardens. Plant your fucking gardens. Okay, May 22nd, we have Venus in Aries, trines Mars in Leo. Big high energy day. Sun in Gemini, sextiles Neptune in Aries. We're feeling a little futuristic. We're feeling a little quirky. We're feeling like there is an advantage to all these situations. What the advantage is, I don't know. But it's also a high energy day. Also, we are packed with strong energies as people being born this time will definitely have a Gemini stellium all the way from May 24th to the 29th. So it just feels like a lot of social energy, a lot of talking fast. Baby girl, I could talk fast. Honey, boo boo. You know, I can talk fast when I need to. Also, we have the Saturn enters Aries. So we're going to look at long-term personal goals in some energies of discipline and courage. And this is definitely a high energy day following on May 24th as we have Sun in Gemini trines Pluto in Aquarius. And if that's not enough for you, we have Mercury in Taurus conjuncts Uranus in Taurus just to give us a little bit more energy around being stable, being pleasurable, and also being balanced. We are going to want to avoid putting too much on our plate. Now, with Saturn entering Aries, I will say that this energy with Saturn enters Aries, it feels like growth shifts. It also feels like discipline for the individual. And it also feels like a renewed energy. Saturn enters Aries. Did I talk about it? Did I do a full podcast on it? Not yet. I am definitely going to do a podcast on Saturn enter Aries because this energy is going to be, some might see it as a little bit like challenging, some might see it as a little bit transformative, but we're going to look at to see what can occur as Saturn enters Aries because this is a huge shift. Saturn hasn't been in Aries for quite some time, and also what can we expect with this energy as a collective and also as an individual. So definitely that May 24th, babe. What day is that? Let me look. Hold on. Shooky. So May 24th is a Saturday. And that's interesting, right? A Saturday. Saturn enters Aries. Let's see. So with Saturn entering Aries, it feels to me like on a Saturday with all of that movement on the 24th, it's definitely a day I'm going to be checking the news, see what's going on right around that time. We also have a Mercury enters Gemini, a lot of areas around communication, clever ideas, quick thinking, and movement that definitely is going to have people buzzing. We also have on May 25th, Mercury in Gemini sextile Saturn in Aries. So this feels passionate. This also feels very like centered around boundaries and a clearer discussion about certain situations. Then on the 26th, so damn, it's like just two very energetic days, the 24th and the 26th. Then on the 26th, we have a new moon in Gemini, which this new moon in Gemini definitely feels centered around having like a fresh outlook, maybe some new ideas, some new projects, some new social circles, clearing certain situations, and starting to see that you can definitely be engaged in new projects, new activities, attending classes, attending ways to broaden the mind. This definitely, making this podcast definitely broadens my mind because I have to go back, reflect on everything that occurred. This is actually one of my favorite podcasts to record. I feel like I'm the most me here because I'm just going over astrology, talking about it. And, you know, it just feels very like formatted, which I'm not a formatted person. Like I have summary notes, but in all honesty, a lot of times I'm just fucking winging it. No wonder people don't like my grammar. And then we have the Mercury in Gemini trines Pluto in Aquarius, where this feels very like centered around influence with the collective. Ooh, I don't know about this. Then also we have the season closing as we have May 29th, Sun in Gemini, conjunct Mercury, Gemini. I feel like we're all going to be fucking tired by the end of May. The fuck? That was a lot. Guys, what? Oh, the end of May was a lot. Okay, so we're going to have to rest up now. We're going to have to freaking rest up now. Ooh, the Saturn in Aries. I'm definitely going to have to record about that, my loves. All right. I want to thank everybody for listening to Chakras and Cusswords podcast, getting into the energy of the astrology for May. Another month, another shit show. What can I say? All right, guys. Thank you so much for supporting this podcast. Please give it a rating, 5 stars. Do give me a 5-star rating. That will help me out so much. If you don't feel like you want to give me a 5-star, then just fucking skip the rating part, okay? Fuckers, right? And share this podcast with your witchy astrology bestie. And guys, lots of new content coming out. Let me know, how do you feel about this astrology for May? How do you feel about that last week of May? OMG. Let me know in the comments. Let me know about some of these stories we talked about. What do you think about Kanye? What do you think about Shannon Sharp? Do you really think Beyonce's an Aries? Or do you think that was like let me just release something so these witchy bitches can, make some shit up? I don't know. Everybody have an amazing day. Bye.